Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. The meeting will come to order. Madam Clerk, would you please read the adequate notice of compliance statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in preparation of the Council Annual Meeting Notice dated December 17th, 2025, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Boyer.
Present.
Mr. Christofoli.
Present.
Ms. Kalmanson.
Here.
Ms. Landman.
Here.
Ms. Laceracina.
Here.
Mr. Pulaski.
Here.
President Toth.
Here. Officer Correa, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please read the notices regarding closed session and hearings and comments?
A closed session meeting as authorized by state statute was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the known items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast channels 34 and 36 and Verizon Channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on HTTV on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's office at cityclerk@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes in length. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to expand a bit on the city clerk's note about hearing and comments. This will facilitate a smoother process, particularly for those watching remotely. If you are seated in the first 2 rows, please remain silent. Anything you can say will be picked up by the recording microphones and make it difficult to hear official proceedings. The 3-minute limit on public comments corresponds to a bit less than a single printed page. So if you're leaving your written remarks with us, please put your name on them and place them in the box near the lectern when you're done. And with that, let's move on to the city's business. On to the minutes for approval. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and closed session of April 7th?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to reports. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We had several wonderful events over the past week. In recognition of Local Government Week, we held our 2nd annual Summit Showcase at the Firehouse with all of our city departments represented. There were plenty of vehicles for kids and for the kids at heart to explore, and cool swag and candy to collect, and a great sense of community as residents came together in a fun and interactive environment. And this past weekend, we also held our Earth Day cleanup in our parks with volunteers coming out to help Summit's green spaces get clean and beautiful. In addition, we celebrated Revolutionary Trail Day as part of America's 250th anniversary. The event featured Summit students reading the plays they had researched and written, as well as reenactors, fifes and drums, Revolutionary pirates singing shanties, Spies of the Revolution performers helping children decode their own messages, and wonderful crafts designed by our Summit students. We have more to look forward to in the days ahead. For Arbor Day on April 24th, we will gather outside of Brayton Elementary School at 10 a.m. for a ceremony celebrating a newly planted cherry tree, and I will read a proclamation. And then on May 1st, we will kick off Mental Health Awareness Month with a lineup of activities on the Village Green from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We also have our annual PAL Fishing Derby on May 2nd and 3rd at the Municipal Golf Course. Hope to see you there. And thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. And now on to Tammy Baldwin for the City Administrator's Report. Administrator Baldwin.
Thank you, Council President.
The next Summit Free Market will be held this Friday, April 24th, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the transfer station. Summit residents with a parking disposal permit can attend and browse donated items, take what they want for free, and you can also donate. You can review the guidelines for those donations on our website at cityofsummit.org/free market before bringing those items to donate. Animal license renewals. The deadline to renew your dog and cat licenses is June 1st, 2026. Renewals received after the June 1st deadline will incur a late fee of $10. If you've previously registered your dog or cat with our health department, you should have received a renewal notice either in the mail or via email if you had provided your email address. Renewal information is also available at the city website at cityofsummit.org/animal license. And lastly, a friendly reminder that our budget hearing will be held at our next council meeting on Tuesday, May 5th. We have several documents that are posted on the city website at cityofsummit.org/budget that you can review before the hearing, including my presentation that was given at the last meeting from the introduction on April 7th, and our annual budget snapshot document was recently mailed out to all residents. It's also on the website, but you should have received it at home, and it gives you an overview of the 2026 budget in a more condensed version. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I want to remind people that our second listening session in April is going to be next Monday at the Community Center from 7 to 9. It's at the Youth Lounge. And I'll be having my regular office hours next Monday as well from 3 to 5 in the conference room right outside. I have a few updates on some of the work the city's done to begin implementing the Round 4 Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement that was entered into last year. The city is working with the Housing Authority to determine the requirements to hire a consultant who will help them apply for additional funds to facilitate all of the rehabilitation that's needed to go on there. We're working with Our House to develop a concept plan for a 4-bedroom home to be built on Springfield Avenue below the paddle courts. And the planning board has approved a project to be built across the street from Little Kings on that abandoned garage on Old Springfield Avenue. That's going to supply 1 unit of affordable housing. And finally, this isn't quite council, but the vote by mail ballots for the June 2nd primary are coming out this week. And with the closing of the Chestnut Street parking lot, our resourceful city clerk has moved the vote by mail drop box to the community center. It's on the Morris Court side of the community center to the right of the main doors. Look for it there. That is by far the best way to return a vote by mail ballot. In the past year, the post office has changed its rules about postmarking and the dates for postmarking. So if you or a family member must return a vote by mail ballot in the mail, please be sure that it's mailed by Memorial Day to get there in time. Thank you. And let's move on to our historical minute. Councilmember Pulowski.
Thank you very much. So for our historical minutes, we like to try to find students to come and speak. It gives them a great opportunity. But sometimes, there's just something very compelling about having folks who lived the history come and report on that history. And so tonight, we're going to hear about the history of Summit Lacrosse Club from Leo Patis, who is a Summit High School class of 1981 and a Summit High School Athletic Hall of Famer, along with Karen Abate, who is a Summit High School class of 1986 and also a Summit High School Athletic Hall of Famer. Both were members of Summit's first boys and girls state championship teams, respectively, and both came back to Summit to raise their families. We thank them for coming tonight, and I'm excited for their presentation.
Thank you. I was like, we're not students any longer, so everybody, I think we both did graduate. Yeah. So, thank you, council. Pleasure to be here. Before we kind of get started, I wanted, on behalf of the club, to kind of recognize a member of the community who recently passed away. They had a great function for Gil Oren at the Elks Club. Gil was a longtime member of the community, grew up in Summit, part of the fabric of the community. His dedication, service was really second to none. So on behalf of the club, we just want to sort of recognize that before we dove into this. As I said, do you guys need our address and spelling of our last name and that kind of stuff?
No,
We're good, right?
We're good.
We're good, okay, I'll kick you off then. The Summit Lacrosse Club was established in 1972 with a clear mission to teach the Summit children to play lacrosse with a skill and integrity, sportsmanship, and fun. The club's early leadership reflected both experience and community spirit. The founders included Rip Collins, who was a standout goalie at Williams in 1944, later went on to the Naval Academy and was a standout goalie there from 45 to 47. Eric Schmidt, Bill Wiebe, Ed Jaffe, and Bob Ginsberg were also founding fathers that signed the incorporation back in 72. About 10 families and 3 influential coaches, Howard Kessler, Ray Discolo, and Paul Giannitis, helped launch the program and establish a culture that has carried forward for decades. Momentum quickly built for the program, particularly after the Summit Herald in January 27th, 1972, where an article titled "Summit Organizes a Lacrosse Team and Invites the Community to Take Part." A standing room meeting at the field house at Memorial Field on February 3 drew interested parents, sports enthusiasts, setting the foundation that would become Summit's most enduring youth sports tradition. Initially open to Summit resident boys between the grades of 8 and 12, regardless of their school, the club's inaugural class featured only 5 games and even a memorable first contest against the Navy Academy plebes down in Annapolis. In its second year, so 1973, the club captured the New Jersey B Division State Championship, defeating Princeton Day School. That season, it also had a signature win of 6-3 over a top 5 Pingree squad. An alumni game tradition started shortly thereafter and reinforced the program's community spirit, lifelong bonds among its players and families. This tradition has sustained more than 5 decades, thanks in large part to the efforts of David Hadley and his family through the Katie Hadley Foundation, which now also provides a high school scholarship. From the onset, the club was aimed to seed the high school varsity boys program, which it successfully did in 1975. Then, the club focused on servicing just the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade boys at that time, which, by the way, was our class of 1975 that went on later to, as Bob pointed out, win a state championship too. And we were playing lacrosse, and it's the first time we started playing lacrosse together at Lincoln School. Over the enthusiasm and participation, the growth not only here in Summit, but also around the state. And in 1987, the boys program expanded to include the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And the club's volunteer governance followed a steady stream of cadence, and often with an 8th grade father basically becoming the president of the club for that year and then handing it down to the next group. In 1990s marked a period of formalization and even more rapid growth. 1992, Brett Hare, Peter Cordray, and myself took on the lacrosse club's board of responsibilities on the boys' side, which continued in part over the following 20 years. Overseeing the program's initially 60 boys in the program from grades 4 through 6 and expansion to include the grades 1 through 3, and championed the installation of the turf fields that was really spearheaded by Kevin Gardner. And then Karen's going to kind of give you a little bit more history on the girls program as it started.
My name is Karen Everling-Abate. I wanted to mention my maiden name because it actually has something to do with the history of the program. In February 1981, 4 parents of girls in Summit met to figure out how to initiate a girls lacrosse club in town. The boys' high school club and high school team had been successful for many years, and with 1972's Title IX as a backdrop, 4 parents, Larry DeCesar, Maureen Moakley, George Howie, and Gail Everling were intent on the girls having the opportunity to play lacrosse for the spring 1981 season. Clark Abbott, who was instrumental as a member of the school board at the time, had 2 daughters that were also interested in playing, and the girls in grades 7 through 12 were eligible to participate in one team. Remember, at that time, the middle school was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and the high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. These 4 parents specified to the school board that the players would come with equipment, both our cages as well as our sticks. That's the only equipment we used at the time, and coaches, but needed field space. We needed someone to help us with scheduling as well as referees. Over 70 girls registered, ages 13 to 18, and I was one of those 13-year-old girls. And we paid $35 to play, and we bought 1 stick. Steve Hadley, as Leo mentioned, has been instrumental. He was heavily involved as a cheerleader behind the scenes. He even brought the Bryan lacrosse representative to the middle school to help us get our sticks for the first time. I was fortunate, as I said, to be a 7th grader at that time, so I was actually one of the first classes to ever make it from 7th grade all the way through high school, playing as part of this inaugural season. After 2 seasons as a club sport, Steve Hadley actually became the head lacrosse coach at the varsity level in the high school. At that same time, a girls' 9th grade club team was started, so we kind of evolved from that. And again, 7th and 8th grade just weren't part of it anymore at that time. The 9th grade team was coached by a man named Jerry Petricora. And at that time, when the varsity program was established, that's how things started to change. And just 3 seasons later, in 1986, which I happened to be a senior and a tri-captain on the team, coached by Joanne Lavorgna as the head coach, assistants Annie Del Tufo and Dave Pease, who many of you all know. We won our first state championship. It was the first title that the women's team had won in Summit's history with a 14-2 season. Out of the girls' varsity high school program and the 9th grade club team came the recognition that the high school program needed more of a feeder opportunity, so those girls were better by the time they got there. We wanted to expose girls at a younger age so they could experience the creativity, the fun, the athleticism of the program. Lacrosse was very fast growing in the East Coast altogether, and Summit had this great community support really engendered by what the men had been doing for many, many years. The girls were interested, parents were very interested in this being part of it, so in the spring of 1987, they began a club program for girls that included 7th and 8th grade, and by that point, 9th grade was actually part of the high school. The Summit Girls Lacrosse incorporated in 1992, and by that point, we had a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade program, and eventually even brought it down to the 1st and 2nd grade girls. Throughout the initial years of the girls' youth program in the late 1980s and 90s, parents and non-parent coaches were instrumental and foundational component of this strong community program. There were very few female coaches at that time. In the early years of the club program, there just weren't many women had been exposed to it at the time, but we certainly welcomed everyone. But as that program expanded and evolved in the 80s and the 90s, we certainly saw more women becoming involved. Many women actually became involved before they had children in the program, as did the men. Elizabeth, probably you did as well. And as we welcomed everyone. Our only request, which is if anyone knows men's and women's lacrosse, is that men were required as coaches to use a female stick.
Which I learned how to play with. So as the decades progressed, the girls and boys program merged in 1998, which was a big, as unified the lacrosse under one umbrella with a common goal. It helped coordinate the resources and scheduling. And from 92 to 2012, participation, I mentioned before, that it was 60 boys in the program, grew to over 1,200 kids in the program, both girls and boys. So tremendous growth over those 20 years. And by then, the Summit Lacrosse Club had become a well-established, in which the high school benefited from. The player development, coaching continuity, and the community support that translated into sustaining a competitive success.
On the field, Summit High School's achievements grew in parallel. The boys captured their first state varsity championship in '81, which he captained, and just a couple years later, the women did in 1986, which I happened to captain as well. Leo and I have known each other for decades, coached together for decades. We have daughters that are the same age. Over time, both programs accumulated numerous Union County and group titles, with the boys and girls team winning, we believe, around 10 for the men and 7 for the women over the last several decades at the high school level. Along the way, Summit produced numerous All-Americans, All-State players, as well as alumni who excelled in college at the Divisions 1, 2, and 3 levels. The decade-strong Summit Lacrosse Club is the foundational feeder program for both girls and boys at the high school, no matter what high school they go to, whether it's Summit High or Pingree or Seton Hall or Del Barton or Oak Knoll, who knows. This community as a whole has experienced decades of success, thanks in large part to the youth of Summit having the opportunity to experience lacrosse for years before reaching Summit High.
So the club's strength has always been its people, many of whom have come through the program, remain in Summit today, volunteering, coaching, and cheering new generations. Countless number of players, boys and girls, All-Americans, All-Staters, many of the athletes from Summit have gone on to those championship teams that Karen has talked about. All just the total number of players through the system is incredible. Many of those individuals have also come back to serve and be a part of the community overall. Some of those family names include Badgley, Baker, Britt, Moriarty, Leckie, Dugan, Demuth, Decker, Schmidt, Everling, Hare, Whitman, Zanelli, Ford, Hadley, Giannitis, McGinn, Tyler, Dunn, Jones, Coviello, Holman, Abate, Paytas, all those numbers. Numerous other children have gone through the program too. Bebout, Gumps, who've participated in a lot of these activities. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell one story about our mayor. So we used to, Coach Fagan, I'll call her, instead of Mayor Fagan, right? So Elizabeth and I were coaching together, and this just gives you an indication of how the dedication of the players in the community and involvement in the community. So just had one of her children and couldn't necessarily get a babysitter for her. So, Elizabeth threw her daughter in one of those backpacks that we all had, like when we were having kids in there. So she's running around the field and she's blowing the whistle, and the baby's crying behind her, but she can't hear it because the whistle's getting blown all over the place. Gives you an indication of how the community has really wrapped itself around the sport. So sort of to close, we had a handful of visionaries in 1992 to a thriving community-wide institution. The Summit Lacrosse Club has upheld its mission for more than half a century. In many ways, only a few of the sports in Summit captured the spirit of the town, quite like lacrosse. Rooted in tradition, elevated by teamwork, and sustained by families who give back generation after generation to play the game the right way. Thank you all for allowing us to come in and give you kind of a historical minute about Summit Lacrosse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a couple of presentations from our police department. Chief Peters.
Thank you. Through you, Council President. Get this right. So first I want to start with a award presentation. On the evening of March 4th, 2026, while off duty and driving through Clifton, New Jersey, Officer Ashley Correa, to my left, encountered a critical situation that demanded immediate and decisive action. While on her way home from work, Officer Correa observed an adult female lying face down in the roadway. Without hesitation, she exited her personal vehicle and had attempted to perform a welfare check on the female. Further investigation revealed the victim was unresponsive with agonal breathing. However, she still had a pulse. For those of you, luckily, have never been in this scenario, seconds matter. Due to the fact there were no visible signs of injury, Officer Correa instructed a pedestrian to call 911 while she began to perform sternum rubs in an attempt to regain consciousness. Unfortunately, the victim was not responsive. Due to a variety of observations while made on scene, Officer Correa suspected the victim was overdosing. As a result, she immediately returned to her vehicle and retrieved naloxone HCI, otherwise known as Narcan. For those of you who are not familiar, Narcan is an FDA-approved nasal spray, over-the-counter medication used to rapidly reverse life-threatening opioid overdoses such as heroin, fentanyl, and prescription painkillers. Officer Correa then administered 1 dose of Narcan. Shortly after the Narcan was administered, the victim regained consciousness and became responsive. Local authorities arrived on scene, and the victim was ultimately transported to a local hospital for treatment. Officer Correa's actions that evening were nothing short of exemplary. She acted not because it was her duty, but because it was the right thing to do. Her commitment to preserving life, even while off duty, serves as a powerful reminder that the oath we take as law enforcement officers is not confined to a shift, a uniform, or a badge. It is a constant calling. For her composure and life-saving intervention, I proudly present Officer Correa with a life-saving award. Please join me in congratulating her for this well-deserved honor.
Thank you for that. I've certainly heard Officer Correa's fellow officers tell admiring stories about her work in the field, and now we have another story to tell.
That's correct. She's doing great. She just got reassigned to the Traffic Bureau.
Okay.
Somewhat unprecedented for the amount of time she's had on to be in a specialized unit, which is great.
Okay.
I think I'm up next for the
You
quarterly
are-
statistics.
Now you are up for crime statistics, Chief.
A lot of police action tonight. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to lead with my opening UCR statistics disclaimer. Considerations for UCR, Uniform Crime Report Statistics. They are imperfect, simply taking a snapshot of a moment in time. So CFS codes, for those of you guys who don't know, I think council knows and has probably heard this a few times. CFS codes are originally created when somebody calls dispatch center. So dispatch will identify what type of call for service the person is requesting and put in a CFS code. That being said, there's initial CFS code and then also an actual CFS code, which is done by the officer once they complete the call for service. For example, you might get a 911 hang-up. When we get there, could be a domestic dispute, which ultimately results in obviously that type of investigation. If you guys want to go ahead. Ashley, you want to take this down? Hang around for this. You did a great job, kid. Thank you. You guys too. I mean, I don't know. All right, just go ahead.
Okay.
So then obviously once the officer goes there, investigates the matter, CFS codes can change. That being said, sometimes CFS codes are imperfect. Statistics are counted based on initial reports and allegations until proven otherwise. Also, we often encounter initial allegations with no further cooperation from victims, resulting in a case being closed by exceptional means, which means we can't prove or disprove an incident took place. However, because an initial report was made, the statistic still counts for the Uniform Crime Report data. CFS codes always reflect the most severe criminal activity. For example, a stolen car might seem as the most important high-level crime. However, if it was a result of a burglary to a house, the burglary would be the UCR statistic that we have to report, or which would show up in my report. So then we have to keep subsequent lists to make sure that we have accurate reporting. Sometimes there's a delay in reporting, which we often find with sexual assault allegations. For example, if someone reports a sexual assault in 2026 that occurred in 2024, that statistic actually would show up in the wrong reporting year based on our stats. And lastly, in 2025, the Summit Police Department handled 52,478 calls for service. While we have checks and balances in place to ensure proper reporting in CFS codes, there are times where CFS codes unfortunately do not accurately reflect the final disposition of the call. With all that said, let's dive into it. So first quarter statistics, I went back 4 years to get a true comparison. So the first column we have here is violent crime. So that would be made up of homicides, which we had 0. It's also made up of aggravated assaults, which we had 3, attempted rapes and rapes, which we had 2, and robberies, which we had 0. So in comparison to the previous years, it's hard to say. We went through this on the annual statistics. We do have healthcare facilities that have a duty to report any allegations of rape. And like I said, 2 of the 5 were allegations of rape. 1 actually did take place where we did arrest the suspect. The other was an allegation in which the victim has not cooperated. As far as the aggravated assaults are, 1 occurred within the privacy of a home, and the other 2 occurred in healthcare facilities where a simple assault would actually be upgraded to an aggravated assault, similar to a police officer. Next would be simple assaults, trending in the right direction. Coming from 2023, we had 18, 24, we had 29, 25, we had 12, and for the first quarter in 26, we've had 6. One of my 2 favorite statistics of the quarter is burglary, because it's 0. Very excited about that number, although I want to knock on as much wood as that's in the area because it's still the beginning of the year. These numbers can change. The weather changes. Things can happen. But as you can see, we are trending in the right direction. As far as larceny, theft of movable property, again, trending in the right direction over the last 4 years. We're at a 4-year low. And then lastly, and my second favorite statistic is a 0 for motor vehicle theft in the first quarter of 2026, trending downwards from the previous 3 years. As we move down to the second table, we have burglaries and attempted burglaries to motor vehicles. In 2023, we were kind of finishing up that COVID wave. We had 20 to date. In 24, we had 7, and last year and this year, we're down to 2, which I'm happy to say. As far as calls for service, so this is not just calls for service. This is not just calls for service that are generated by civilians calling in dispatch. This is also self-generated calls for service. So every time our officers check a school, check a park, check a business, make a motor vehicle stop, that they document that through a case number. So if you look at our calls for service, they are going up. 12,036 back in 23, up to 13,504 in 24, 13,959, and then in 2026 we crossed the 14,000 marker for first quarter at 14,311. I gotta make these the font a little bigger. I apologize. Either that or we need bigger television. As far as traffic enforcement, again, motor vehicle stops, they are trending upwards. The officers are out there. They're stopping cars. For the most part, you'll see when we get down into the summonses, we're not out there to hammer the general public, right? For the most part, we try to educate. So we did have 2,317 stops in comparison to 2,163, 1,433, and 1,611 over the previous 3 years. Moving summonses are up, but so are motor vehicle stops. So with 555 moving summonses this year compared to 473, 427, and 353 back in 2023. Parking summonses are down a little bit from last year, but up from the previous 2 years. So that not only includes illegal parking uptown, in addition to the 2-hour parking that we also enforce, we do overnight parking as well. Obviously, anybody who lives in town knows that you can't park in the streets overnight between the hours of 2:30 and 5. Total summonses, again, over the last 4 years, we are trending up at 1,392. I threw this last table in. I haven't presented this yet, but I think it is important, based on the work that we do, is crash data. So motor vehicle crashes are trending upwards, especially for minor motor vehicle accidents. That's where nobody's injured. It's more of a fender bender. It's a parking lot. It's not something where somebody ran a red light, car got flipped over, airbag deployments. They are up. One thing I can say that might be a reason for that is I do feel a lot more people are going back to work. If you look back at 2023, I think a good portion of the population was still working somewhat remotely, whether it be hybrid. But I do think a lot of companies, especially the government, has had people go back full time. So we are up to 162 minor motor vehicle accidents, 34 not minor. So that means that either an airbag was deployed, either a building or a pole was hit, a vehicle was overturned, or that resulted in an injury. So that is trending upwards as well. I don't like those numbers, but I do like the fact that the officers are out there conducting motor vehicle stops because oftentimes through enforcement, we can get corrected behavior. We have had an uptick in motor vehicle hit and runs. I guess people like to hit things and not stick around. 23 back in 23, 22 in 2024, 25, and up to 33 to date this year. As far as pedestrian strikes, for the first quarter, we're averaging around 4, 3 back in 2024, but again, those can change, especially with the weather. And then totals, again, trending somewhat upwards. Not a number that I like to see, but I would like to think that there are more people on the road, more people traveling, and that's unfortunately kind of a byproduct of that. So, Councilman Boyer, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Well, thank you. Let's see, do we have any questions from members of the public?
It means I covered
Questions from
everything.
members of council. Councilman Boyer, you do look ready to bounce.
Thank you, Council President. I'm surprised the public didn't come up and ask the chief a bunch of questions. Y'all had the opportunity. So, Chief, are we fully staffed? I know that's a tough question because
We are fully staffed, just shy of one officer, Officer Valerie, just got brought on last month, so there's a 13-week field training officer program, so he's in the midst of that. So he technically doesn't count yet because he's still with a field training officer for the next 2 months.
How many officers does that mean?
52, including Detective Freeman, who's on loan to the state PBA.
Yes. Okay. Now, these are tremendous stats. But the public should probably know, though, that because I see the officers out there, that this stuff is still going on, right?
Correct. So we have, I was actually going to run those numbers. We've been in quite a few pursuits the last 6 to 12 months. Weekly basis, we are getting in motor vehicle pursuits. We've invested in technology which allows us to understand when these people are coming into the town. In a proactive measure, we try to flood those areas and get them out, and our officers are pursuing vehicles. We pretty much take them out to 78. Not looking to hurt anybody, just get them out of our town. But just to let them know, we're holding the line. That 24 corridor, or the Diamond Hill exit off 78 are typically the ways in which they come into town. And our officers are flooding those areas, making sure that we have a presence, we're being seen. I'd like to say I could solve all the world's problems, but I just really, at the end of the day, we're trying to divert them away from Summit. If they know every time they come up here, they're met with some type of police resistance, maybe they just go somewhere else. So
Yes.
That's the plan of attack.
Our officers are more persistent than the criminals, and that's how we need to be. And I just want to let the public know, in 2023, we made a serious investment to hire 4 new officers. And, we always say, where's your tax money going? I mean, this is a perfect example of where your tax money is going. 0 burglaries, 0 motor vehicle thefts. What a tremendous, tremendous move. And, I love the job that the police department is doing. There's a lot of young officers, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Pulaski.
So, not to repeat anything that Jamel said, I just want to thank you and your officers for your incredible work. I think these numbers demonstrate what a great job you guys are doing. And I also want to thank you for using the proper nomenclature in referring to our business district as Uptown.
That's right.
Anyone else? I'm going to ask the question I always ask, which is how do we look in comparison to our peer and surrounding communities?
So I would like to say, I haven't looked at the stats of Millburn, Chatham, the immediate surrounding communities. I do know crime overall, regionally, has trended downwards, which is a great sign for all of us. But like I did say previously, they're still out there. There are cars still being stolen. There are pursuits that are happening, and it's our job to hold the line. To be out there, be present, and our officers are doing it. To Councilman Pulaski and Councilman Boyer's comments, young, very motivated group. Learning curve is steep, but they're hanging on and they're doing a great job. And I really appreciate them. But they're the ones that are out there in the middle of the night, not me. I can promise you that. But I really commend the work that they're doing, especially our detective bureau as well. They've been doing a great job with all the follow-ups, working regionally with all of our shared partners to making sure that any crimes that do occur get a good disposition.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to ordinances for hearing. Madam Clerk, would you read the ordinance for hearing number 26-3377?
An ordinance to amend the code of the City of Summit, Chapter 18, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 18-3, Excavation of Streets.
Thank you. Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance ID 12451 would amend the city code regarding excavation of streets by utility companies. This proposed ordinance is intended to provide better oversight and quality of work being done by utilities, including requiring restoration paving curb to curb. I move to open the hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on this ordinance from members of the public? Do we have any comments from members of council? Yes, Councilmember Boyer.
Just only to thank Councilman Christofoli. Thank you for looking into this and doing this. The city needs this, and we have to hold them accountable, because ripping up our roads and stuff is just, it's bad, Appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Council President. I appreciate
Yeah.
that, Councilman, and I really have to give credit to our city engineer, Aaron Schrager, for his diligence on this issue.
Thank you. And I'll only note that many of our other the surrounding communities are experiencing the same level of frustration as we are, and many of them are moving in this direction. So although the utilities may be grumbling about it, they're getting the same response every place. Yes. So I'm going to declare this hearing closed and move on to the next ordinance for hearing. So Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance for hearing number 26-3378?
An ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, Regulations for the Movement and the Parking of Traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, municipal parking lot areas.
Thank you. Councilmember Calmanson.
Thank you, Council President. This is Ordinance ID 26-3378, and it authorizes a change in the current daily parking rate and prepayments. With operational and maintenance costs steadily increasing, adjusting the daily and prepaid parking rates will help ensure the city can continue to properly maintain the parking lots and garages. Permit parking rates will change as follows. Daily rate will go from $4 to $5, monthly prepayment from $80 to $100, quarterly prepayment from $228 to $285, and annual prepayment from $864 to $1,080. I move to open a hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on this ordinance from members of the public? Do we have any comments on this ordinance from members of council? No. As someone who paid daily parking rates for more than 20 years, it's been a couple of decades since they've been raised. And our rates are much lower than our peer communities, so this certainly makes sense. And I'll close this hearing. Madam Clerk, would you read ordinance for hearing number 26-3379?
An ordinance to amend the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-21, speed limits.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pulowski.
Thank you. This is ordinance number 263379, and to put it simply, we are lowering the speed limit in a couple areas in town. The first area is on Orchard Street from the easterly Summit line to Morris Avenue. It's currently 40 miles an hour, and cars move pretty fast there. So this is something we've been discussing for a while. I'm glad we're going to be able to get that done. The other area is from the center of the easternmost intersection of Springfield Ave, which is by the car wash, and Morris Ave to the easterly Summit line. I move this ordinance for hearing.
Second.
Do we have comments from members of the public? Good evening. Could you start with your name, where you live?
Cianciulli,
Yes.
Orchard Street.
I
wanna thank-
Just a moment, Mr. Cianciulli. Do you need that spelled, Madam Clerk?
No, I do not. I know
Okay.
Mr. Chichilli very well.
I suspected, but I wanted to check. Okay.
I want to thank especially Jamel and Bob and Chief Peters. I had met with Chief Peters a couple of years ago on this issue. And for me, this was more than just being bothered by people going too fast on the street. For me, it was a personal issue because 25 years ago, my daughter had got hit by a car in front of the library. And the lady who hit her was going 25 miles an hour. And my daughter was, by the grace of God, and a young gentleman who was an EMT at the time, was now a detective in Cranford, named Russell Ludecker. He happened to be at the library the day that happened, and he had some immobilization stuff in his car, and he was able to call for the helicopter right away. And the point being that if the speed had been any more than, had been 30 miles an hour. When I got up to the scene, my daughter's shoes were in the crosswalk, and she was, the woman didn't know that she hit my daughter, and she was about up past almost by the bank up there, by the church. And, but the point is that at the impact, the only reason she's alive today, of course, by the grace of God, and this guy, Russell Ludecker, because like the chief said before, time is critical in those situations. Because when she was airlifted to University Hospital, she was a 2 on the Glasgow scale, which is basically she was brain dead. And they can't explain how she survived. So from about 5 o'clock that night till about 10 o'clock that night, she was on a 2 on the Glasgow scale. And about 10 o'clock, something happened, and she went up to like a 6. And it was just, it was a whole combination of miracles. And so for me, it's personal, because I think 25 miles an hour saves lives. You know, it's a difference of getting hit at 25 as opposed to 40. And this was a little car. You know, today, I mean, I got trucks whizzing past my house 35, 45, 50 miles an hour carrying tons of dirt and stone and stuff. And there's a crosswalk right at the bottom of 2 inclines. 40 miles an hour going to that crosswalk is ridiculous. I mean, on the weekend, there's kids and everybody going, you know, to the park. Every time I see a kid go by the house, I just wait to hear the tires screeching, because the street's just too fast. So I want to thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chinchilli.
Chief Peters.
Wow, thank you. I want to thank everybody here for doing this. It's a great move forward. I agree, it is not enough. A few years ago, I was talking with Lieutenant Daly of the traffic detail in the police department, and he challenged me to once try driving downtown 25 miles an hour, the legal speed limit. I encourage everybody to, once when it's empty, attempt to do that for a moment, and you'll realize that a lot of our streets have speed limits that are unreasonable. I would love this to be the first step to having a city that only has a 25 mile an hour speed limit maximum. And I don't know how it may be difficult to achieve, but an even lower limit in downtown. I know there's a lot of trouble with county roads and all that stuff. I understand that it cannot be done once by fiat, but we should strive to do that. It's in everybody's best interest. This is a great first step, and I hope that you will all vote in favor of this and pledge to continue this work, because it's one of the best things we can do to make our city safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any comments from members of council?
Council President.
Councilmember Boyer.
So I strongly support reducing the speed at Orchard Street. Let me explain. So you have Orchard Street, and right adjacent to that, on the other side of Bryant's Pond, right, is by the car wash, is where we're reducing the speed limits. I mean, you have a park right there where people have to cross and their children have to cross. And in 2024, I received a couple of complaints about heavy pedestrian use at Bryant Park, documented frequent crossings, driveway conflicts, crashes, people have been hit. So I would really like to see this adopted and install clear signage and have our police actually be able to finally enforce the speeding law. Because when it's that fast, they can't actually give someone a ticket. So now they can for speeding. And, you know, by the way, the story that we just heard, you know, reducing the vehicle speeds from 40 to 25 miles an hour reduces an incident where a pedestrian has a 90% chance of survival as opposed to the 40 mile an hour speed limit. So I truly support this. And Mr. Hoek said something that I just realized. I was driving through Plainfield. My cousin lives in Plainfield. Almost every street in Plainfield, New Jersey, right, there is 25 miles an hour in the back roads. Almost every street is 25 miles an hour. So just something to think about. I know driving slow is kind of difficult, but it really reduces the critical injury to a pedestrian. So, I support this, and I'm glad that we worked on it and finally got the county to do it. So I thank our police department, Police Chief Peters, and our engineer, and the county for agreeing to it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Calmanson.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mr. Chiancholi. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. Thank you for sharing that. My heart goes out to you. I'm really glad your daughter's okay. And I'm glad that we were able to get the speed limit reduced. This came up last year. And we said this doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry? Oh, 4 years. Well, I'm glad that I'm really glad that we're able to be voting on this tonight. We said this doesn't make any sense for this to be 40 miles per hour. This is a narrow road. The speed limit actually goes up when you come from Springfield into this more narrow road, and the speed limit goes up. So also want to thank Councilman Boyer, thanks our city engineer, but also, yes, thank you to our city engineer, Aaron Schrager, because he reached out to the county and worked with them to lower these speed limits. So I'm really glad to see this happen tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments? No? I'll just add, yes, I'm so thrilled that we're doing this on county roads. And as far as I'm concerned, next up is Glenside Avenue and Broad Street from Ashwood to Route 24. They both need to come down as well. So we'll work on that, and I'll call this hearing closed. So now we get to move on to ordinances for final consideration. Back to you, Madam Clerk, to read the caption for ordinance 26-3377.
An ordinance to amend the code of the City of Summit, Chapter 18, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 18-3, Excavation of Streets.
Thank you. Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Having closed the hearing on ordinance 26-3377 just moments ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Crisafulli?
Aye.
Ms. Calmanson?
Aye.
Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Saracina? Aye. Mr. Pulowski?
Aye.
President Toth.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the caption for ordinance number 26-3378 for final consideration?
Yes. An ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-25, Regulations for the movement and the parking of traffic on municipal property and Board of Education property, subsection 7-25.2, Municipal Parking Lot Areas.
Thank you. Councilmember Calmanson.
Thank you, Council President. Having closed the hearing on ordinance ID 26-3378 moments ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Crisafulli?
Aye.
Ms. Calmanson?
Aye.
Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Saracina? Aye. Mr. Pulowski?
Aye.
President Toth.
Aye. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read the caption for ordinance number 26-3379 for final consideration?
An ordinance to amend the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-21, Speed Limits.
Thank you. Councilmember Pulowski.
Thank you. And Dan, I loved your intro to that. I wrote it down, so it's nice and crisp. And having closed the hearing on ordinance 26-3379, I move this ordinance for adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Mr. Crisafulli?
Aye.
Ms. Calmanson?
Aye.
Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Saracina? Aye. Mr. Pulowski?
Aye.
President Toth.
Aye. Okay, that concludes the ordinances we're passing tonight. We're going to move on to ordinances for introduction. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read ordinance for introduction ID 12515?
An ordinance authorizing the temporary closure of Maple Street pursuant to NJSA 40:67-16.9 in the City of Summit, County of Union, New Jersey.
Thank you. Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Ordinance ID 12515 would open a section of Maple Street in downtown Summit for community use during our school summer vacation period this year. Please note that the start date has been changed to June 18th to reflect the last day of school, which was extended due to a snow day. The pedestrian area will include tables where you can bring your own sandwich or takeout from any local restaurant, games for kids to play, space for seniors to meet, including myself, retail pop-ups, and outdoor dining. Participating restaurants will pay a fee for each seat they use. In speaking with residents, I often hear about the crown jewels of our town, the top quality schools, express trains to the city, and our charming downtown. Talking to merchants and through my role on Summit's Economic Development Advisory Committee, I've learned that our downtown is at risk. The change in our shopping habits has accelerated. We're all seeing the mountains of Amazon boxes waiting for recycling. Tariffs have hurt small businesses in particular. We need creative approaches to ensure downtown Summit's vibrancy in the years ahead, important to our community and important to our property values. As chair of the Capital Projects Committee, I can assure you that we've done our due diligence on the health and safety aspects of this proposed ordinance with full consideration and sign-off from public safety officials. The traffic study indicates that opening Maple Street, quote, will not have a significant impact. We are limiting the calendar to school summer vacation days to further mitigate traffic concerns. So it'll be lower traffic than what was in the traffic study, we expect. We will ensure that potential health and safety outcomes will be monitored along with the economic development outcomes and other outcomes, and that this information will provide input to any future programs that could take place on the street. So we've listened to Summit, learned from prior experience with opening Maple Street to pedestrians, and we feel the benefits are real and valued by the community, bringing neighbors together, especially kids, families, and seniors. People choose Summit, they tell me, because of these crown jewels. And programs like this one help keep Summit the special place it is. I move to introduce this ordinance.
Second.
Okay, and I understand there may be an ordinance from the floor.
I move to amend the ordinance that I just introduced with a streamlined version recommended and approved by the New Jersey Department of Transportation, which incorporates all relevant state laws that are referenced in the previous longer version. It's a streamlined version which incorporates all relevant state laws and will have a hearing date of May 5th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, now, Madam Clerk, I understand we're first going to have a roll call vote on amending the ordinance.
Correct.
Correct.
So
would you,
the second version is what you're all voting for.
right, we are voting whether we should, whether to
You should actually substitute.
substitute, thank you.
Substitute.
Substitute the version that was in the distributed packet with the version that is now outside the room.
Yes.
So this is a motion on the amendment.
Right,
And then if the motion on the amendment passes, then you do a vote on the introduction of the amended version. If the amendment fails, then it'll be a vote on the original version.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
I'll proceed. Mr. Boyer?
Is there a hearing on the amendment?
No, it's just a vote.
Wait,
This is just introduction tonight.
we can't comment on the amendments to the, we should be able to comment on it, right? Like,
My
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Brown, but the voters can comment on how they vote. Am I correct?
In making your vote, you can explain why you're voting one way or another on the amendment, but since this is just an introduction, I don't believe the Common Council traditionally does comments on an introduction.
We do not. It's akin to a motion to table.
can I ask the city solicitor one more question, please?
Yes, Councilmember Boyer.
If I need to vote on approving the motion, and I want to do a nay vote, right? I should be able to explain why I'm voting against it or for it.
Yes, you can explain why you're voting one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah. And this vote is just on the whether to amend.
The substitute
yes.
ordinance,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Whether to substitute, yes.
Okay, may I proceed?
Please do.
Mr. Boyer?
So I would like to explain why I'm not in support of this. First of all, we just got the traffic study last night, and my understanding in talking to Councilman Pulaski is that this didn't go through the safety committee. And if it didn't go through the safety committee, I don't know how we can say that all of our public safety officials signed off on it. I am not going to be a hypocrite because I've done this last year where we amended stuff on, during council meetings. But what I will say is that I've never brought anything out in public that wasn't vetted by the safety committee first. And I don't know how you can proceed with this without going through one of the most important committees that I spent the last 2 years on, where you talk about the safety of the public, which should be first. So with that being said, I am against this ordinance. I think that it's not ready for prime time, and we should do what we normally would do, and it should go to the committee and be approved and come back out. Thank you. So that's a nay.
Mr. Crisafulli?
Aye.
Ms. Kalmanson?
Aye.
Ms. Landman?
Aye.
Ms. Saracena?
Aye.
Mr. Pulaski?
So I'm with Jamel on this one. We just got the traffic study last night. And the reason that this ordinance hasn't made its way through safety yet is because we needed the traffic study first. So the fact that we are even considering this, I think, is a big mistake. And I've been pressing for this traffic study, and I offered to have last week's safety meeting instead of Tuesday on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday. Traffic study wasn't there. It can't come out of that committee without us being able to thoroughly evaluate the traffic study. But that actually is why I was going to vote no on the original ordinance that was in the packet, because it hadn't come through safety. Now, we have a substitute ordinance that hasn't gone through any committee that we're being asked to vote on. And the original ordinance looked kind of similar to this until it was heavily edited as it made its way through the two committees that the original ordinance did make its way through. I have received no explanation as to why we're making this last-minute change, why it was necessary. And, everybody up on this dais campaigned, preaches transparency and process. And in a single moment here tonight, we're just going to throw both of those out the window, okay? This is not following the proper process, and this is not being transparent. The statute that this relies on, I don't think it's reflected in this particular ordinance. The reason that we made those edits previously was to conform with the statute that the council is purportedly relying on to close Maple Street. But I did confirm with the city solicitor that NJSA 4067-169, if anybody wants to look it up, is what controls here. No matter what's in this ordinance, we still have to follow the statute, the municipal code. So regardless of what may or may not be in this ordinance, the city will be complying with the municipal code. So I vote nay.
Council President Toth.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Now we are voting whether to introduce the ordinance as amended by substitution. So, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Boyer?
Once again, I am not against dining in public on Maple Street. I particularly enjoyed it. However, I'm a safety-first person, right? I've been doing this my whole life, and your safety is my number one job, right? Up here. And if it didn't go through the safety committee, so that means our police chief probably didn't see the traffic study. If he didn't see the traffic study, then how can we say our public safety officials agree with this? Maybe it's great. I don't know, right? But how can we put something forward that wasn't vetted? So, I mean, I really just don't understand. So this just seems, at this point, irresponsible. I mean, there's no even plan. I haven't seen a plan for putting up ballards, right? So you can't drive a car. That in 2023, that's what I said. I didn't say anything else. I said, I just don't want to see anybody drive a car through where we're dining. We live in unpredictable times. Just had something happen on 22. Oh, Councilman Boyd, that'll never happen. Stuff happens. It only needs to happen once. So let's really vet this out. I'm not against it. Let's vet it out. We still got time. It's still cold out. So let's just do the right thing. So I vote nay. But I hope you all do the right thing. Nay.
Mr. Crisafulli?
Aye, 100%.
Ms. Kalmanson?
I am going to vote in support of this. I am a member of the Safety Committee, and we have had conversations with all of the necessary parties about how to make sure that we can do this safely. And all of those conversations have resulted in the affirmative that, yes, this is something we can do safely. And that is why I will support this. I vote aye.
Ms. Landman?
Aye, and you can see on page 37 of the packet where the vehicle barricades are intended and the detailed plans.
Ms. Saracena?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to get through all 127 pages of the safety study, so I'll continue to read that. One thing that I want to do is respectfully disagree with my co-safety committee member, Ms. Kalmanson. We have certainly brainstormed the safest ways, or what would be the safest ways to do this. Certainly never come to a conclusion that we could do it safely. And, I think the conclusion that is never going to change is that it'll be less safe if we close the street for outdoor dining than if we just leave it open. So I just wanted to clarify that. One other thing, I was going to vote nay because it didn't make it through all three of the committees that should have looked at this and given their recommendation to the council. Now we're looking at a statute or an ordinance that hasn't made it through any. I'd like to know when the decision was made to swap this out and why. Why was it necessary to make these changes? Did we have to make all of the changes that we made in this? And when was the decision made? Because last year, 2 years ago, Councilman Miniger, he had a big problem with bringing something up to the floor before the community had a chance to see what it was that the council was voting on. And we made a specific amendment to our rules that if somebody wanted to pass a resolution from the floor, and I didn't know that we could do this with an ordinance, maybe we have to amend the council rules as well, that, and there is not 48 hours before the council meeting in order to publish it to the public, that the moment that we knew we were going to do it, we would publish it to the public. And, if we didn't know until this afternoon or noon or whenever it is that we knew, I know we knew yesterday because I was told that we were going to be doing this yesterday. I think it should have gone up yesterday, the moment that we knew, in the spirit of that rule. the public deserves an opportunity to see this. And I know we don't take public comments on introductions, but certainly folks might have been interested in coming and speaking their mind during the public comment where they can talk about whatever they want. So I'm still a nay, and I know it's going to pass. People on the council here have been myopically driven to close this street for outdoor dining for some reason that I can't fathom, but I'm a nay.
Council President Toth.
Aye. Motion carries. Let's move on to.
Can we just announce
Yes.
when the hearing will be?
Thank you.
As
Yes,
amended?
Yes, as amended. The hearing on this will be May 5th, 2 weeks out, as is typical for ordinances. Thank you for that. Okay. And we're going to move on to resolutions. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Council President. The agenda says May 19th. I just want to make sure.
Right. It is May 5th. We're going to move to resolutions, beginning with finance. Sorry, Councilmember Landman.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution ID number 12498. This resolution states that the Common Council concurs with the Board of School estimate on the taxes to be collected for the school year 2026 to 2027, which totals $79,873,363. As a member of both the Board of School Estimate and the chair of this Council Finance Committee, I believe the tax levy is appropriate, and I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any comments from members of the public?
So, Diego Clerk, Argyle Court, I recognize the fact that you're not voting on the content of the budget, but let's stipulate that this meeting is watched by a lot more people than the Board of Education meeting. And I wanted to bring up to everybody's attention in Summit the fact that we have significantly curtailed the money allocated to English as a second language education in a community that has a very significant immigrant population. My own children were great beneficiaries of the phenomenal ESL education we have here in Summit. And honestly, I don't understand how we can look at continuously improving our athletic facilities while we defund English as a second language education. So I recognize that there's nothing you guys can do about it, but I'm just speaking about it in this forum to raise awareness of this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the public? Do we have comments from members on council? Okay. Let's move to a vote. Is this a roll call?
No.
It is not. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution that is listed as third on law and labor actually belongs to finance. And I understand that Ms. LaSaracina is going to introduce this resolution.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, Resolution ID 12512 relates to Council's authorization of a settlement agreement with a city employee. It is captioned a settlement agreement, but to clarify, there were no claims brought by this individual against the city. It's just the city's standard operating procedure to ensure a smooth transition, both with respect to the function and for this individual moving to their next professional opportunity. We have the opportunity to discuss in closed session. As a result of this particular individual's departure, there is a resultant role elimination, which impacts the city budget, which is why it has been moved from law and labor to finance. I move that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
Do we have any comments from members of the public? Any comments from members of council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to capital projects and community services. Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution ID 12456 authorizes the city to submit a report to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Services on recycling activities in Summit. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from members of the public? Do we have any comments from members of council? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution ID 12427 authorizes the professional services in support of the rehabilitation of the Tier Garage in an amount not to exceed $150,000. The bids for the full project, the implementation of the full rehabilitation, are currently underway, and we hope to conclude the bulk of that this summer while fewer people are in town. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on this resolution from members of the public? Do we have any comments from members of council? No? Then let's move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution ID 12505 establishes the Affordable Housing Round 4 Task Force with the objective of engaging residents in the implementation of the legal agreement related to affordable housing developed by last year's council, recognizing that any element of the agreement, that changing any element of this agreement could risk losing our city's legal protection from additional development, including a proposed 8-story tower on the Village Green. So this is a way to engage residents, to adjust where we can, and ask the right questions, while our ability to make major changes is almost zero. So I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Do we have any comments from members of the public? Any comments from members of council? I'll just say that the ability to apply to become a member of this task force should roll out tomorrow morning. So please, if you live near one of the areas where we expect to be making development in the next 10 years, apply to join the task force. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to Law and Labor, Councilmember Saracina.
Thank you, Council President. Resolution ID 12500 relates to a certification of compliance. This is a standard requirement in connection with the adoption and submission of our municipal budget. The EEOC guidance relates to the municipality as an employer considering conviction and arrest records of applicants for city roles. We have reviewed the guidance, the council members, in support of our city solicitor and our city administrator. Ms. Baldwin has kindly affirmed to us that our hiring practices are indeed in conformance with the EEOC guidance. All that said, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from members of the public? Do we have any comments from members of council? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Back to you, Ms. Saracina.
Excuse me, Council President Toth, may I be excused for this one?
Oh, thank you. Yes, please, Councilmember Pawlowski. Okay, Ms. Saracina.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman Pawlowski is a practicing attorney at a law firm. His law firm represents one of the parties involved in this litigation by firm policy, and to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, Councilman Pawlowski has recused himself from all matters related to Resolution ID 12506, which is a resolution authorizing the execution of a settlement agreement with Broad Street West Managers 1, LLC. The pending approval of this settlement agreement will bring this litigation to full resolution in satisfaction of all the parties. And I am hopeful it will be adopted. I look forward to removing this matter from the city's docket and looking ahead to the future. That said, I move this resolution for adoption.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any comments from members of the public? Do we have any comments from members of council?
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Boyer.
only to say that I am also so happy to move forward, that the city is moving forward from this litigation that has been, is it 4 or 5 years now?
Since the
Something like-
Pleistocene era.
Yeah. So I'm happy to see that this is one lawsuit that's been settled. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Pulowski, I think Mr. Chinchulli is telling him he can return. Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Does any member of the public wish to comment on the consent agenda? No? Does any member of council wish to comment on the consent agenda?
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Christofouli.
Thank you, Council President. I would just comment on the Arbor Day festivities. It sounds like some historical artifact from a bygone era. What is an arbor anyway? But I'd like to reflect that it's actually very important. It's celebrating our trees, our green canopy here in Summit that helps absorb all that stormwater runoff, and it keeps our streets and homes cooler. And I think it should be one of our top priorities for those reasons, and it shouldn't be just viewed as a musty, fusty old relic.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And thank you to our city staff. We appreciate that you're here. You are free to leave. And let us move on to public comments. As we begin public comment, we ask that the residents of Summit step forward to speak first. We value input from everyone, and of course, any member of the public is welcome to speak. We simply ask for your courtesy in allowing our local neighbors to lead the public discussion. Again, I'll remind you, 3 minutes on public comments.
Good evening. My name is Dave Hoffman. I live at 1 New England Avenue, apartment 17A. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's across from the Summit Playhouse in a group of apartments called Manley Court. And we're very manly at the Manley Court. But we have an issue of parking. I know we've addressed that before. And whenever I talk to my friends about that, they say, well, don't you have residential parking stickers or tenant stickers? No, this is Summit. We don't do that. Recently, it's become very personal to me because of a health issue. I'm supposed to walk more. And I thought, well, that's easy. I can walk to the train station, take a train to work, walk to my school, walk back, a good walk. I can't do that here because if I walk to the train station and take the train, my car will be ticketed for violating a 2-hour limit. And there's really not much I can do about it. And when I tell people about it, they say, well, of course, use the parking sticker. There isn't a parking sticker. So I'm told that there might be, and I just want to put my 2 cents in that I hope that the issue can be resolved. I know that a few of you are meeting with some of the residents for a manly discussion, and I look forward to hearing the results. Thank you for letting me speak. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Good evening, Mayor Fagan, Council President Toth, members of council and staff. I'm Jim Bennett, Bennett, 38 Fairview Avenue. I will not be available on May 5th, which is when the municipal budget is going to be discussed. So I just wanted to make a few comments now. I, first of all, commend the city on putting out this budget snapshot. I find it very transparent, and my attention every year goes to page 3, which is municipal debt, and it overall it seems to be pretty much flat. So I would commend the city on accomplishing that. I would ask the city to focus on two main topics. One is to avoid tapping of reserves in order to pay current expenses. And two, the control of new debt, subject, of course, to the necessary debt that has to be taken out in order to maintain property. Deferred maintenance is really a false economy, and I would not advocate for that. I call for a scrupulous review of physical plant and infrastructure that generates the need for debt, and to be very scrupulous about the acquisition of new debt, and to avoid those things which would look good on paper for lowering taxes, but in the long run do not serve the residents well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Mayor Fagan, Council President, council members, my name is Ben Golden. I live at 28 Morris Avenue, Summit. I'm not sure if I'll be here for the May 5th meeting on Maple Street, so I would like to make some comments now for the record. With all due respect to the council, if someone came forward to the zoning board or the planning board with such a dearth of information and simply said, this building will be fun and will be adding to the vibe of our downtown, he'd be sent packing. This council and the restaurants that have prepared in the past closings on Maple Street have refused to provide any information other than it would be fun. How many tables for dining were used in past closures? How many chairs are at each table? Assuming a table turns every 1.5 hours, how many potential meals could have been served from 12 noon to 8? How many actual meals were served? Lacking this information, anyone can say what they want. My observations of past closures, which are as valid as anyone, was that from Monday to Friday, noon to 4, there was little to no usage of the street. Monday to Wednesday, from 5 to 8, we're lucky to have 20% usage. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 5 to 9 was peak demand, and there were still tables available. Sunday from noon to 8, there appeared to be no large demand. So failing to provide any factual usage data, this council and the residents who keep saying they like the fun and the vibe, they have provided no evidence of such. And this lack of due diligence on the part of council or the restaurants who are clamoring for this is just so troubling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosemary Zotti, Shumpike Road. Who on this council thinks closing a through street in the center of town, leaving only Summit Avenue open to emergency vehicles and traffic, is a good idea? Think about the fire trucks have to maneuver such a wide turn off of Broad Street only to be met with total gridlock. When you're driving on Summit Avenue, your head is on a swivel because cars and people are coming at you from both sides. Cars come into Summit Avenue from Broad Street, Union Place, Franklin Place, the railroad lot, and Chase's drive-through. In the end, it's 24, getting on to 24. People are crossing from the train station to the parking garage. They're also crossing to go to the diner and into town. They're crossing on Bank Street, and cars are parked on both sides of Summit Avenue. Imagine the traffic if Summit Avenue is the only through street in town. Only 4 restaurants are truly benefiting from closing Maple Street. We were there for them when they needed to be outside during the pandemic, but not now. Summit residents need to get through town. Why should we change how we get through town for street dining? This whole idea about closing Maple Street has to end. The last time I spoke, I brought up the promenade. It's there because the building on that piece of property burnt down. The fire trucks came through Maple Street to get to that building. There was at least a dozen pieces of equipment, including 3 aerial trucks, fighting the blaze. A resident had to be rescued from her 3rd floor window. A month ago, on a Saturday, I drove up Maple Street to get to CVS. 15 minutes later, on my way back, Maple Street was closed. There were 3 fire trucks and police vehicles on Maple Street. This time, thank God, there wasn't a real fire emergency. You're not closing Maple Street for the majority of Summit residents. You're closing it for a small minority of residents and out-of-towners who want to eat outdoors. Our streets are for cars and emergency vehicles, not dining tables. If there's an emergency, who on this council wants to be held responsible because they voted to close Maple Street? It's the responsibility of this council to do what's best for all Summit residents, building owners, and Summit businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you put it?
You can put it in there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is your name on it, sir?
Is your name on it?
It is not.
I see what you mean.
Thank you for
Mrs.
asking.
Fitzgerald, 3rd grade.
I was just about to say elementary school.
Name on paper.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel Jackson, 28 Morris Avenue. And I have to comment about Maple Street and the reasons not to close it except for emergencies. Doesn't matter if it's seasonal, that does not give a justification just because it's seasonal. I'm going to read the numbers if I have. Number 1, public streets are regulated by the state of New Jersey for the benefit of all citizens. If Maple Street is closed, consideration must be given to the compression of vehicular traffic onto other public streets and the effects on the general flow of traffic. Unsafe business deliveries and pedestrian safety must also be considered. Maple Street is one of 2 major downtown north-south arteries, and as Gil Oren, former Gil Oren, has stated several past council meetings, quotes, when Maple Street is closed, Union Place is gridlock, unquotes. Number 2, emergency vehicle obstruction. A Millburn resident complained at a public council meeting that an ambulance was delayed due to the closure of Main Street. Millburn ceased the closure the next year. And I'll just repeat the question that was asked. Who will take responsibility if police, fire, and our ambulance vehicles are stalled or prevented from reaching an emergency situation in Summit? Who will take responsibility? Number 3, the unfairness to Maple Street businesses that have addressed their closure opposition at past Summit Council meetings. Parenthetically important, in August of 2025, a petition with over 100
business signatures was presented at a Red Bank, New Jersey Borough Council meeting stating, quotes, "I am in full support of ending Broadwalk immediately and permanently," unquote, because of business losses. It's on the internet. You can check out the petition and the story. Bottom line, Summit should not be picking business winners and losers by closing public streets during non-emergencies. Number 4, the unfairness of closing a publicly dedicated and major street that everyone should have access through to primarily benefit those who can afford to pay for expensive restaurants. The roads belong to everybody. They're public streets. The poorest resident in Summit should have full access to Maple Street just as much as the wealthy. Number 5, the contention that Maple Street must be closed to provide outdoor dining is untrue because Summit already has outdoor dining, and Gil Oren presented at a past council meeting a detailed survey that as of September 2024, the Summit downtown provided 532 outdoor dining seats by 27 dining establishments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please vote no.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Sargent, 3 Glen Oaks Avenue, Summit. I'm here to discuss the dog parks. I have been a resident of Summit for over 20 years, and the dog parks last summer, I believe it was led by Bob, were were probably the best thing that ever happened to me in Summit. I met probably 30 new people from going to the dog park, and I knew Bob before, but I didn't really know him until I met him at the dog park, and now we're very good friends. So it's been just a great thing. I know there's some feedback about safety and children on the spectrum. I have experience with that, and children on the spectrum love dogs. So I just wanted to make a comment that we should continue to have the dog parks in town, as it's the best thing that's happened to us, or for me personally, as a resident for over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bruce Thurkoff. I own 26 Maple Street in Summit. Just make a few comments because I didn't think we were going to be able to speak at all tonight on something that was introduced. But I've been here before. Every time this thing comes up, I thought we had put it to bed. Who keeps bringing this up about Maple Street? Everybody wants to close Maple Street. For what? 4 restaurants. What about if you're going to open up some streets or close down some street, don't the other restaurants in town should get the same favors? You could close down half of Union Place. You could close down Bank Street. How about Beechwood? Yeah, let's do Beechwood. Summit Avenue. Summit Avenue, you're going to say, well, that's a major artery that goes across town. So does Maple Street. That's the alternative. I was up here 2 weeks ago, and I saw, I was on the side, and I saw the fire truck come through. Apparently, they had a call. They were going down Summit Avenue. Well, they had to stop. They had to stop for almost 2 minutes because a guy couldn't get into the parking space on the street. There were other cars that tried to get around them. They couldn't because they were backed up coming the other way. I mean, who's kidding who here? The ordinance. Was the ordinance published already? Was it? Was it published yet? The new ordinance or the old ordinance?
Posted on the website earlier today.
I'm asking a question.
The clerk just said yes.
So it was published. Was it the new ordinance or the old ordinance?
The original ordinance was in the packet that was posted on Friday, and the substitute ordinance was posted today at noon.
It was printed again. So are the people going to be confused as to what ordinance you're trying to pass here?
I did also make copies for everyone as they entered the room.
Yeah, well, what about the general public?
I mean, and isn't it usually 30 days that it has to be published before you have a public hearing? Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. No, it does not. Okay, and the meeting time, that was published for May 5th?
Sir.
For the public?
This is not a back and forth. You can make your public comments, and then at the end, we'll answer them. There was an ordinance introduced tonight.
Right.
The public hearing will be May 5th, and the publication will happen thereafter. But
Okay.
any other comments you have, you can make them now.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the public will have adequate notice that there's a public hearing on May 5th? Okay, I'm just, it's just confusing that we have to be up here time and time again to try to put this thing down and close it down, because I thought that's where we were. And we know the issues here. And obviously, the studies have not been done that really should be done. The prior speaker mentioned that. I don't know if there's been any traffic studies recently, but I, as an individual, because we've gone through this before, I've been through town when we did have outdoor parking, and I can tell you right now, between the bad weather, the hot weather, the insects, and whatever else, and then you try to count the capacity of the people actually using the outdoor seating, and it's not being used to any great degree. And all those people could well enough be served inside rather than outside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, good evening. Anthony Melchiona, multiple property owner on Maple Street. I've been here before also. I don't know how much more I could add with these comments, are just fantastic. And unless someone comes up after me, I don't see anybody here speaking in favor of this calamity. I just want to say one thing, a great phrase that you should all remember and take to heart and think about this, because I know the majority of you who ran for council ran on shutting down Maple Street. Crazy. Risk versus reward. So we've heard all the risks, and that's plural. Safety for all the residents and businesses, all emergency services, which I would love to see this report for police and fire and EMS that says this is safer than having the street open. It is less safe. Even by an inch, we can't vote for something like that. Crazy. Having a Maple Street business for, I don't know, a couple decades, businesses suffered, even though it was pandemic. Does anybody think about the offices upstairs or the residents who live on that street and how they're inconvenienced bringing packages, receiving packages, garbage removal, UPS, trash, contractors, so on? I'll go on more in 2 weeks. Traffic flow and congestion, removing 7 very valuable parking spots on Maple Street. And from what I understand, the Tier Garage will be doing major renovation. Where are all these people going to park? Well, it's summer. That's what I'm going to hear. And lastly, a big risk is going to be from the lawsuits that are going to be generated from the Maple Street property owners. Well, I didn't say anything about reward, and that's singular. What's the one reward? The 5 restaurants will benefit financially and significantly, with some of these restaurants doubling the occupancy of their current restaurants, facilities. I don't know the specifics about rent that will be paid, who cleans up, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about that May 5th. And through you, Council Chair, I miss Mr. Arduous, but I welcome Marina Brown. And I know we can't ask questions, but maybe you can comment. Will this be put out for public bid since we're using a public street? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public?
Good evening, Diego Hoik. This is actually why I came here today. Isn't democracy great? We have an election coming up, and Bob and Jamel are up for re-election, and they can run on reopening Maple Street forever. That's it. That's a campaign promise for you, Bob. It's interesting to hear talk about transparency, when for the past 2 years we have not had a debate on Maple Street at all, even though there's multiple surveys that show that about 3/4 of the population in Summit actually like outdoor dining and Maple Street being closed. And so I am encouraged that this is happening. I think the vast majority of the Summit population likes going down to Maple Street with their kids, have dinner, maybe go into a store. It adds life. And it turns out that Americans spend a tremendous amount of money going on European vacations. And most European cities have their entire downtowns shut down and people have to walk. And nobody's concerned about safety there. One last thing. We have been told many times that it was illegal to shut down Maple Street, despite the fact that Mr. Jacoby on numerous occasions pointed out how statutorily it was legal to open up Maple Street. So it's kind of, so those in council seats who may have said in the past that it was illegal have some transparency that they need to come forth with. So I welcome Maple Street being open. I think that I am not alone in this. I think that I respect very much the views of those who disagree with me. This is why we have a democracy. But at the end of the day, the voters did vote a council majority that campaigned on closing down Maple Street, and they should be listened to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, then we can move on to comments from members of council. Yes, Councilmember Landman.
Thank you, Council President. 3 quick things from me. First, given the outstanding response I got from the last time I spoke about a need for one of the nonprofits in town about grocery bags for Grace, tonight I want to highlight, as a Junior League member and somebody who also volunteers at Moms Helping Moms, we are in a collection right now here in the city to collect diapers. So the Junior League is leading a project to collect 100,000 diapers by the end of May. Not only do they take full packages, but even open diapers. And every parent here can relate, when you open that package and then you realize they need to size up. So you can drop them off at the middle school vestibule, among other locations, and help serve under-resourced families while you clean out your clutter. Second, on Sunday, I had the pleasure of going to the farmer's market for the season opener, and despite the kind of cruddy weather, had a really great time connecting with residents and some of the vendors. I did hear time and again their excitement about the seasonal opening of Maple Street to pedestrians only. We have heard concerns here tonight. They are valid concerns around traffic and safety. We've asked those questions too, and we'll share more for the public hearing on May 5th. But we, again, we are sensitive to the huge challenge this time, in this time of online shopping for many of the retailers downtown. And then finally, as we are about 6 weeks away from the New Jersey primary election, for those who are new to Summit and have not yet registered to vote here, you can do so online at unioncountyvotes.com. Tuesday, May 12th is the last day to register to vote for the June primary election. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councilmember Boyer, watching you move into launch position.
I'll start out with something nice before I respond to Mr. Howick. This past weekend, we celebrated the life of Gil Orrin. Now, while I shared some thoughts previously about his life and his profound impact that he had on me growing up, his son shared a story that I just wanted to pass along. So Gil was a dedicated youth coach for basketball, baseball, and football. Football was his thing, though. That was his number one thing. But he was coaching his son's basketball team, and by his son's own admission. They weren't that good. So during one particular tournament, they lost the first game by 20 points. There was a 4-hour intermission. So guess what Gil did? He took them to go see Hoosiers. Now, if you know Hoosiers, Bob Knight, Indiana, what a great, motivating, Rudy, Notre Dame type thing. These kids were pumped up. They were ready to play. I mean, they got out of that movie theater. They drove back. They were about to do some assists and three-pointers and everything else. So when they got back, they started out the first quarter, okay, second quarter, all right. They ended up losing by 45 points. I thought that story was amazing. And his son told another one about people taking charges, from 40 yards out, but we won't go there. Second thing that I'd like to talk about is the Summit Housing Authority. I think the game nights are phenomenal. They are so phenomenal. Our council president had a chance to go. I think some other council members, but our mayor was like in the back in the kitchen with an apron on, cutting turkey or something. I mean, it was just was it chicken? I mean, the atmosphere and the mood in the senior building is amazing, and I'm just so happy to be a part of that as a liaison there for 2 years. So we are definitely moving forward. I asked our city solicitor to do some follow-up for some really serious things, though. Like I talked about before, we want to make sure that our seniors, along with our low-income housing residents, are getting their money back that they have been inappropriately charged. So we as a city, we need to follow up on that. That's still a problem that we need to deal with. On another note, just real quick about Maple Street, and Mr. Hoek, I come from a different part of town. We don't think alike. I'm nothing like you. I serve the city in the spirit of Gil Orn, to serve. I don't get nothing for coming up here. I got 2 kids. One got 1 more year left and going to college. But I'm up here to raise questions about security stuff, right? That's my wheelhouse. So I do this so that I can actually try to enlighten some of the folks up here who are not possibly security minded. I mean, I'm looking at the ballards or the barricades here, and the one thing I can think about is, yeah, there's a little space in the middle, right? But if you got to drive a fire truck down there, what are you going to do? Jump out and take an axe to the 2,000-gallon water ballard to get through? And what about the ones that, are screwing in? Are they going to be automatic, or are you going to screw them in? Some of those things are $25,000, $30,000. We got a dog park. Just saying. Shout out to you. But I've asked residents to email, call me. Some people have called me, friends, family. Hey, we like it. We don't like it. But besides that, though, right? I like to do what the majority of residents like to do. But I just want it vetted by the safety committee. What more can I ask for? That's just responsible governance. And last but not least, I almost forgot. I wanted to give Councilwoman Comments a shout out. Thank you. I know, right?
Where's this going?
No, but I wanted to say thank you because you have been on the safety committee with me for a year, and us, the police and the fire, we've done some tremendous things to help this city from a public safety perspective. And the speed limit is just one of many, and our chief just gave a phenomenal report about crime in the city. So with that, I would like to say thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Anybody else? Councilmember Pulowski.
I only have one page tonight, so.
Okay.
So first,
Good
I'd like to
modeling.
thank Leo Patis and Karen Abate for coming in and giving us that presentation. If you're not following, there's actually 5 high school lacrosse teams in Summit. Our boys are 8-0 and number 1 in the state right now. Girls are 4-3, but they're always tough. Kent Place is 7-0 and number 2 in the state, and that's the first time they've ever done ranked that high. Oak Knoll's always great, 6-3. Oratory struggling, but they're hanging in there. And just to give you an idea of how this program's grown, in 1987, that was the first year that I played lacrosse in Summit, and there were 2 boys teams, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade team, and a 7th and an 8th grade, a 7th/8th grade team. The girls had 1 7th, 8th grade team. Today, Summit Lacrosse Club offers programming for kids K through 8 on both the boys and girls side, and there are 2 to 3 teams per grade. So it has grown in leaps and bounds. Second thing I have is, some of you know, FIFA World Cup is coming to the Meadowlands this year. I sat in on the NJDOT's presentation last week about that, and what you might not know is that there is no general admission parking. It's all going to be public transportation. So if you work in the city and you take public transportation, the more it's not going to be so tough to get to the city by train, but it is going to be very difficult to get back because everybody's going to be traveling to the Meadowlands to go to those games. So this is on the NJDOT website, and the city also issued a press release. But the dates of the games are June 13th, 16th, 22nd, 25th, 27th, and 30th, and July 5th and July 19th. So you pencil into your calendar. If you can work from home that day, you'll be able to avoid a potential headache of a commute. Earth Day. Thanks to all who participated. I've posted about this before on my council page, but Earth Day is every day. So let's keep working to keep the city clean and beautiful. Game night at Vito Gallo is a ton of fun. I encourage everybody to come out, spend some time with our seniors. There's fried chicken every time, so just don't take my thigh. And I'm learning how to play backgammon. It's really a lot of fun, so please feel free to join us on the 3rd Saturday of every month. It runs from 4 to 7. Dog park. So I had a conversation with Councilman Christofouli this week. Some of you know we did pass an ordinance to allow for a pop-up dog park. I'm waiting with bated breath to see where it's going to go. Dan's looking into other locations, and it is a pop-up dog park, so maybe we can move it around. But I have encouraged him to speak to the city engineer about putting it up where it was at the end of last year at maybe at least until the construction's done. I think concerns about children with special needs and how they might react to a dog are legitimate and something that we need to look at. But they're not going to be playing there till the construction's done, which I understand is going to be at the earliest in the beginning of June. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get those fences up so that we can go and have our dogs play. Maple Street. I will not be running on reopening Maple Street forever. I'll be running on safety. And it really doesn't matter to me how Europeans feel about safety because I care. I did say that the last closing of Maple Street was illegal because it was. I didn't say closing Maple Street is illegal. I said the last closing of Maple Street was illegal because it wasn't done the right way. And nobody provided the materials to NJDOT that they required. So that's that. We'll get into a lot of the details about the merits of closing Maple Street and what the various concerns are. But you heard here twice tonight, completely unrelated to Maple Street, that in an emergency situation, seconds matter. So everybody could remember that. Process and transparency. I think we took a hit here on both fronts tonight. By bypassing committees to close the street just to make sure it gets done the day after school ends, I think it's irresponsible, and frankly, it's beneath the dignity of this council, and I'm very disappointed. Hopefully, more people will come out, voice their concerns, and hopefully the council will listen on the night of the hearing, and if it seems that it's warranted to table the motion and continue to do our due diligence, I hope that we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? Councilmember Saracena.
Thank you, Council President. One quick reminder about the Summit Wellness Symposium, Tuesday, April 28th, 6:30 p.m. at Summit High School. There will be a forum for different resources and strategies to support our children's mental health. I will be there in support of a group called MAMA, it's Moms Against Media Addiction, but all caregivers are welcome. There will be a lot of different groups who are there to show different ways we can invest in our children's mental health, so I hope to see you there. On the Tatlock lights, as many may have seen either in person or elsewhere, the lights have been installed at Tatlock Field. They will remain off while we work through some key open issues. At the same time, we are working to resolve the related litigation. Now, I know for some this is unwelcome news that the lights will remain off for some period of time. We understand the ongoing urgency for all of the stakeholders we do. I apologize that we have not communicated more about the work that is being done, but there is earnest work happening to resolve those key open issues and on various work streams, and we aim to share more in the coming weeks. In brief, and I'm sorry, I didn't put myself on the timer, but in brief on Maple Street, it is somewhat atypical to have a robust discussion at introduction, but this is an important issue, and we understand that there are a lot of stakeholders with different views. In brief, on public safety, I agree with many of my colleagues. Protecting the physical safety of our residents is our most important responsibility as elected officials. It is one that I know we all take very seriously, though we may take different views on this specific issue. It is something that we all care very deeply about. I appreciate the concerns that have been raised by our neighbors as well as our colleagues from the dais. We have considered these issues for many months. Maple Street was opened in prior years, right? And we had our experts, such as our former chief of police, chief of fire, the head of EMS, who opined with respect to the prior closure. We have engaged, again, with the people who I consider to be the experts with respect to public safety, right? Again, our chief of fire, our chief of police, our city engineer, and the leadership of our EMS. We have to trust the experts, in my view. And I would not be voting in favor of closure, even at introduction, if I did not have confidence that our experts had confidence that we could do so safely. We will have more to share at the hearing date on May 5th, but I did want to share that one note. Thank you.
Councilmember Crisafulli.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to comment on how council has been developing a relationship as 7 individuals, and we are 7 very different people getting to know each other. And I would note that until tonight, I believe all of our votes have either been unanimous or close to unanimous, right? I'm getting a nod from Rosie, the ultimate source on that. It's normal to have disagreements among any group, and this council is really no exception to that. I think we've been doing pretty well so far. Bob said that he doesn't like the idea of Maple Street pedestrian use, and he said clearly he thinks it's a myopic view. I respect that view. I disagree with it, but I respect it. We've worked with Bob for months to get him on board, to get him to yes, and tonight we took steps to make it possible to open the street to pedestrians this summer without undue delay, to allow planning to get, it takes time to get the thing in place and to get the restaurants, the other businesses, the pop-up retail that are not located there. So there's a lot of work that has to be done before the street opens to pedestrians. And so I would say the important part is not that we can't disagree or that we shouldn't have any disagreements, but it's that we keep our discourse civil and cordial, and that we can collaborate on all the other stuff that we do agree on.
Thank you. And I'm just,
I'm sorry, I gotta, my wife would, Mrs. Boyer would get on me
okay.
if I don't do this. Soul Prom, Decades of Dance, hosted by Lulu Guerrero. Lulu is a 2010 graduate of Summit High School, and this event will be held at the Fortnightly Club in Summit, New Jersey. And this is a woman-only prom night, and I am sponsoring 2 seniors from the senior building. The mayor is sponsoring 2 other women who can't afford to go to these events, and so is Councilman Pulaski. I would ask my other colleagues here on council to chip in as well, and the public. You can go to my website and find that. And one of the main reasons why I'm supporting the Soul Prom is that I found on council for 2 years is that we have a lot of events in town, but not a lot of different people show up there, right? Because A, they're expensive and they're exclusive and everything, but you find that when there is a mixed group of people, you make new friends, you kind of learn different cultures and different aspects and how people are living in Summit. And this is one of those things where I'd like to see more diversity at our events, right? More diversity of people in Summit. There's some people that lived here 50 years, and other people don't even know who they are, right? In the same town. So I like the community aspect of it. So please go on my website. There are 10 women who can't afford to go to an event like this, and we are sponsoring. We think it's a great idea, especially to get seniors. Anytime we can get a senior to go out and do some dancing is really exciting, and it means a lot to me. So thank you.
what fun. Are we invited too?
Of course.
Okay, I'm only sorry you and I don't get to go on the floor. Yeah.
Council President? Really quick, I swear.
Oh, your one page of notes took more than 5
Well,
years to deliver.
I was going to say something about Gil Oren, and I didn't because I thought that Jamel covered it, but I just thought of one more thing. And this was really a great man who we've been blessed to know and have as such a major part of our city for so many years. And the thing that jumped out at me at his memorial were all the great things that he did for people that you would have never known because he would never tell you. And he believed, as I do, that if you do someone a favor and more than 2 people know about it, you did it for the wrong reasons.
Okay. Good advice. Okay, yes, Mayor.
I know. Just to add on to what Jamel said about the prom, Soul Prom, it does benefit Grace, so just another reason to support it.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I just have a couple of things to say if everyone else is done. When you pick up your agenda for the council meetings, on the first page, it lists all of the unfilled appointments on city boards, commissions, committees, and task forces. And I just wanted to highlight a few of them where we really do need volunteers. The Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board. This is one if you really like planes. This is a good one for you. The Lackawanna Coalition. You wouldn't know by the name. This is how we communicate with NJ Transit. This is your voice representing Summit to NJ Transit, and it's ideal for somebody who has to suffer through commutes to the city or even to Newark, and is willing to speak up on behalf of Summit. And the last one is the Transportation Advisory Board, which is not planes and not trains. But that is a county board, and it meets occasionally, and we could use representation on all of them. So we invite you to apply for these. If there are, we have dozens of boards, committees, commissions, and task forces. Even if there isn't a vacancy, you can put in your application. Once there is, we'll consider all of the recent applications. So thank you. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here. Thank you. Before 10 o'clock.
I know.